Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Show Me Show podcast for episode 100. We finally did it. We reached the century mark, triple digits. This has been years in the making, so it's just awesome to be here, just to be at 100 after the ups and downs that we've had. So we thank you all for tuning in. We got a big episode today, so we'll be talking about the NBA Finals. The Thunder won in 7 games, excuse me. So we'll be talking about that, wrapping that up. There's been a lot of NFL news, so we're going to talk some NFL news, our thoughts on that. And then we have segments as well. Tough scene of the week, obviously, we have to do for episode 100. And we'll also be debuting a news segment today called The Starting Five. And it's where me and Cam will draft a starting five. We'll go back and forth. And then I think we might close with some NFL wheel spins too. So that could be interesting. But anyways, let's get into the show here. I think it cut out.
That's funny either way.
All right. Yeah, we had to do it. The original opening audio. So yeah, let's get into it. Episode 100. What are your thoughts on that, Cam? Just to start off quickly.
It's funny that we took so much time off, and then we come back, and then the second episode is episode 100, which is like a funny milestone that we should have hit a long time ago. But still funny that we're doing it like as we just randomly come back. Even our last show was like 3 weeks ago now, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, still pretty cool, I guess. I can't believe we've done it 100 times. Well, we've probably done about 125 podcasts. I feel like there's probably been some of them they just never were able to get up there.
Yeah, we just never recorded them. Like,
yeah,
we did the talk and everything, but we probably have done way more than that actually.
Yeah,
but
probably.
As far as recorded episodes, it's 100. But anyways, the NBA Finals. You want to lead with that? That was kind of the event of the summer here. 7-game series, first time in 9 years that the NBA Finals has gone to 7 games. And, it was between the Pacers, who no one really expected to be there, and the Thunder, who were a heavy favorite, and they got it done in Game 7. But the big story, Tyrese Halliburton tearing his Achilles tendon. That just was a huge bummer on the game itself. I was super excited to watch it, and whenever that happened, it just felt like the Pacers had no chance. They fought in the third quarter. They fought hard. T.J. McConnell, all heart. What a series from him. He honestly should have been the MVP, even though they lost. I think he probably would have been the MVP if they won the series. There's a good chance of that because of just the way he elevated his play. But I'll get into the Thunder. I'll let you recap it, and then I'll start hating on the Thunder.
Yeah. I thought it was a great series too. Once again, kind of like the last series between the Pacers and the Knicks. The first 4 games were pretty crazy, and then the last 3 were pretty, like, they teeter-tottered back and forth, obviously, but it was pretty decisive, the winners, and that's how it was in Game 7 too. The Pacers had the lead at half by a point, but it dissipated pretty quickly, and they found themselves a hole that they really couldn't climb out of. There was a stretch in the third quarter in Game 7 where, like you said, T.J. McConnell, he had 12 straight points, I think, for them. And but after that stretch of points, nobody scored, and they didn't score for a while, which was a big problem. And that's actually where the game was lost for them, because the Thunder weren't really going crazy in the scoring sheets either in the late third quarter and into the start of the fourth, but they were able to pull away because they just did nothing for such a long period of time, which sucked. And yeah, the Halliburton thing really sucked because he came out of the gate. I think he made 3 threes to start the game. It was 2 or 3. I think it was 3 though. And then he was just done, and it sucked because you kind of been rooting for him all playoffs with all these crazy shots that he's made, and he's just been a true fighter, especially trying to fight through the pain with his calf. But unfortunately, when you do that, sometimes you tear your Achilles, and that's what happened. So it sucked, but it was still a great series. I'm still happy for the Thunder in terms of their city gets a championship for the first time ever. I think that's probably in any major sport for them. So that was cool. And it was also cool to see the Thunder players at the parade, and there was like three players on the team that had never touched an ounce of alcohol in their entire lives, and they got pretty they got pretty hammered. But so you always like to see that. You always like to see young players getting hammered at the parades. Chet looked like a Slim
Yeah,
Jim walking down the street, smoking pot and just getting hammered, probably off of two beers or so. So you just
yeah.
like to see that.
He was on a different planet. It was I don't know if you saw, but when he went to give the speech, he was just like, I don't know where I'm at, and he like almost dropped the trophy, and they had to like take it from him, um, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, Jalen Williams said he had his first drink after that, which I'll be honest, we all like remember our first drink, but I don't think any of ours compare to that. I mean, that is literally the best first drink that you could possibly have. So I don't know. Maybe he should just make it a tradition that the only time he drinks is after he wins NBA championships. I don't. It would limit the alcohol intake for sure, but it would also like make it that much more special. So, but anyways, the Thunder.
Yeah.
This is something that, man, me and Cam, I hate them. I've been hating on them since probably November or so. And it really just comes down to SGA. SGA, he's a great player, right? And he seems like a really, really good guy, which makes it hard for me to hate him. I'm not hating him. I'm not hating SGA the guy. I'm hating SGA the player. And it's the fact that he won the MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP, and the championship like all in 1 year. And that is something that no one does. Like that, it's going to be talked about as one of the greatest seasons ever. And he scored 30 points a game. You know, which is that's cool in itself. But when you look back on the season, do you really like think SGA had one of the greatest seasons of all time? Yes, records wise, awards wise, he did. But like his play, he was not one of the best players in the league. You know, maybe that comes from me being a Jokic guy and thinking he got robbed of the MVP, which he did. He did get robbed of the MVP. He was definitely the most valuable player. Um, Probably the best player too, but definitely the most valuable. Um, and it sucks to see it end this way. I said back in November that this version of the Thunder would never sniff a title, and well, that ended pretty quickly. So, man, I that's why you have takes though. Some of them hit, some of them end up like the Colin Cowherd. You know, LeBron, we're good. We got Ben Simmons now. You know, it happens. It happens. I just really hope that this Thunder team doesn't become a dynasty because their style of play, the way that they just grind you out on defense and SGA's foul baiting and free throw shoot, it's not fun. It's not fun to watch. You know, at least the Warriors, Kevin Durant did screw that up by going there. He made it just so lopsided and them just so much better than every other team that it wasn't really fun. But those early Warriors teams, like 15 and 16, they were fun. Draymond just getting chippy, Stephen Clay having some of the greatest shooting performances ever. I mean, that's fun basketball right there. I don't see that in this Thunder team. So I just hope that they start having financial problems and have to get rid of stuff. But Sam Presti, credit to him. I mean, this rebuild has been great. Just all the picks that they've gotten, the trades that they've made. So it does feel good to see him finally get a championship because it does feel like he's doing it the right way and he seems like a smart basketball guy. But
Yeah. And you have been very against the Thunder for a long while now. Couple things I'll say is you when you ask like when we look back, will we say like, wow, was that really one of the best seasons ever? And statistically, it will be because you said like he literally captured every award, and here's the big one that people always look back to when they look back at awards and see like, all right, well they won MVP, Finals MVP, and all this shit, but did they win the scoring title? Because that really like kind of tells a lot of your dominance, and he did. He did win the scoring title. Now I agree though. I am just as big. I think Jokic is the best player in the world, and I think he should have certainly at least been second in the MVP voting, which I think he was. Then I would have probably went Giannis.
I hope so.
But SGA just had a better statistical season, and two things can be said at the same time. Because Jokic was still the best player in the world. If I started a franchise today, I'd want Jokic over SGA. But for the Thunder, he was the most valuable player on their team, and he led them in scoring on the team with the most wins. They won the most games. And one other thing is, I'll say I agree. I don't think that the Thunder are, you know, they're not an eyesore because they are so good at what they do. But it's not the most exciting. I do agree with that take. I think the Pacers are more exciting, but I will say this that we've seen this before, and all it really takes is for them to draft somebody that's good at shooting or acquire somebody that's a good shooter. And that can all change pretty quickly if you have a Mark Smith from 3-point range. Because they have some decent shooters, but you're right, they don't have like some guy that just blows you away from the 3-point line. And but come on, it's the NBA. That's something that's not so hard to acquire nowadays. That could always change. Um, and we talked about this ourselves. I don't think SGA's foul baiting was as bad in the finals. Um, he just drove a lot, and he got some calls, and especially at the beginning of the series, I thought he was getting some of the calls, and then some of them, they kind of evened out a little bit because they were like, "We're not calling that shit. He's literally straight up not touching you, and you're just falling backwards." But he was still the MVP in my eyes too. I mean, he scored 30 almost in every game. So
Yeah, he did. I have right now pulled up on Basketball Reference Jokic and SGA stat comparisons just to show you that maybe SGA wasn't the best player stats wise. He did beat Jokic in points by 3 points a game, but then Jokic has 12, not 12, 7.5 more rebounds per game. He's got 4 assists more per game. He has more steals per game, less blocks per game. That's actually an interesting one. Better field goal percentage, better 3-point percentage. And that's all the stats that it shows, other than estimated field goal percentage, which Jokic also wins. But the thing about SGA averaging more points is most of that comes from free throws, and it reminds me of James Harden. James Harden, interesting player, good guy to have in the league, but man, his MVP season was like the same way. It was just most of his points came from the line. It's just not a fun style to watch a player just go and get calls from refs that, maybe they shouldn't have. Sometimes, yeah, they do get fouled, but that's just not how it works. And
okay, but
so,
another
yeah,
thing is it wasn't that bad in the playoffs, his foul baiting, and we did not watch NBA regular season. So like it should not really affect us that much.
I I thought it was pretty bad in the playoffs.
I did not think it was that bad. Not
He
compared to
had
what the people were saying online, and definitely not in comparison to like how because I didn't watch that many Thunder games this year, but I did watch a lot of the Knicks, and they called the same shit for Jalen Brunson all regular season because he's like the same type of guy. Just drives a shit ton, drives the most in the East. Shea drives the most in the West, and they both just get a ridiculous amount of free throw attempts off of foul calls, and his were down too in the playoffs. I felt like, in comparison to just watching games during the regular season.
yeah, but I don't know. Uh, I think I
Yeah,
saw a
that's a
stat.
true too.
I'm not sure if it's true. I haven't checked it yet to see if it's true. But SGA's free throw attempts in the playoffs was only 20 attempts less than Tyrese Halliburton's free throw attempts all regular season. So that's just something to think about.
Well, Tyrese Halliburton didn't have. He went like on a 7 game stretch without a free throw. He's a way more ethical hooper, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, exactly.
But he also, I don't know, he's a lot more agile and quicker off the when he catches the ball, and when he's going to the lane and driving for a layup. I feel like he doesn't really lean into people. He just goes, and I feel like that's probably why he doesn't draw as many fouls, which is not a knock on him. That's just how he plays, to be honest. But also another thing about Jokic is, and I hate having to admit this, but it is true. It's kind of like with Luka. I mean, I know he has some of the steals, but he's just not that great of a defender. And it's not that Shea is a
Yeah,
great
that's true.
defender on the Thunder, but he's not really a liability either. And like you said, he gets up there, he gets blocks. He does turn the ball up, but so does Jokic. Jokic had a bunch of turnovers this year too. Um, I don't
That's
know.
just what
I think
happens when you
either
touch the
way, it's
ball a lot,
close.
though.
Yeah, exactly. That is another true thing for sure. The ball's always in your hands. You're gonna turn it over here and there,
I
but
wonder, do
yeah.
you know what VORP is? That's the only stat on here. I have no idea what it is.
That's a Barry McCockiner stat. He would talk about
Okay.
VORP. I've heard him talk about VORP before, but I don't know what it is either.
Okay. I'm not going to talk about it then. I won't say
Yeah.
who had more VORP, Jokic or SGA. I will just leave that up to the abyss. Uh,
Yeah, that works.
but yeah, great series. Huge bummer for the Pacers because in their situation, it's like this was kind of their chance. With a lot of the East teams getting injured and the Celtics being knocked out, like they didn't have to play the Celtics, which is who beat them last year. So you get to this point, you're one game away from getting your first ever title, and not only do you lose that, but then you lose your star player for likely all of next year, and that's just it doesn't get any worse coming off a finals loss than that. That's just uh, it sucks. It sucks for them. I feel bad, but they have Caitlin Clark, so they'll get a basketball title soon.
Well, she's never won the big one, but I agree.
It's true, but it
But
took
yeah,
Michael Jordan, 6 years to win his first, and he's got 6 of them. So,
yep,
all right, you want to get into some NFL now?
yeah. Well, hold on. I want to hear what your thoughts are on Durant to the Rockets first.
Oh, true, yeah. Whatever. It's the Rockets. I mean, it's interesting because they have such a young team. So pairing Kevin Durant like a Finals MVP, all-time player, arguably top 10 all-time, but definitely a Hall of Famer. Adding him to that roster, it could be like a nice veteran presence to help them, at least in postseason. It doesn't seem like they need a lot of help regular season-wise. They were the 2 seed this year, but they got knocked out in the first round. So maybe having a guy like that you can go to will help them. But the more interesting part of the trade, I thought, was Jalen Green being a part of the package. That he was a young star player for him this year, and he really was really bad in the playoffs, really bad. And it just seemed like they panicked a little bit and got rid of him. Like they gave up on him just on one playoff series, which you can do. If a guy has that bad of a series, it's like you start questioning. But it does seem weird to get rid of him that quickly. So it's interesting. I thought, the Suns, they need players like that, cheap players that are going to be good for them. They
Well, I
really
don't know
just
how
got to
much
trade
longer.
contracts.
I don't know how much longer Jalen Green is going to be cheap, but
That's true.
But yeah, he was really bad against the Warriors, and it is funny to think about that they did. They were just like, well, shit, we're just gonna mail it in on this one with Jalen Green and just send him over. But
Yeah, for
yeah,
like 2
does
years of
happen.
Kevin Durant. So
Yeah.
it did seem a little bit weird, but the good part about Jalen Green going to the Suns is that he doesn't have to worry about playing playoff basketball. So
Yeah.
um,
That's
he
nice
can
at
just
least.
thrive there.
Yeah.
And was that it? Desmond
Uh,
Bain to the Magic.
I don't really care about this either, but
Yeah,
I thought it was crazy all the picks that they got for it. But it was
yeah,
I don't know. I that was just a lot of first round picks. But
it
for the
was. I
Nets.
don't really understand like NBA trade value or trades at all, like how you can do pick swaps and like it's just it's all weird to me. Maybe I didn't play enough 2K as a kid, but
It's
that's
pretty
it. Just
simple.
it doesn't
There's
make sense. Yeah,
it's just like protected top 10 or
yeah, you get
protected
that too.
whatever or unprotected when you trade it and shit. And sometimes that just unfolds in front of your eyes when you're watching the lottery. There was some big scenarios this year with like the Sixers where like if they didn't get the third pick, they had to give up their pick to I think it was a Thunder, which would have been crazy. So yeah, but that stuff is always kind of niche and interesting about the NBA. But yeah, my only thought on the Durant to the Rockets thing though was that it's funny that the Rockets have collected all three of the early good team Thunder. They've had Harden MVP, Westbrook didn't win an MVP there, but wasn't bad there. But was kind of the start of his downward slide for sure. And now Durant, like
Did
Pokemon.
I think did Serge Ibaka play for him too for like a year? I feel like he
I
did.
think Steven Adams plays for them right now, doesn't he?
That's
That
true.
that
Yeah, he does. Yeah, Chris Paul, OKC legend, also
Chris
played for the
Paul. Yeah, he
Rockets.
did. I remember that series against the Warriors. Or no, I'm
Yep.
sorry, it was against the Lakers. He played in a series against the Lakers, I think, for the Rockets too. Chris Paul. Maybe in the bubble? I don't remember. I feel like I've
Maybe.
seen a GIF with Chris Paul getting teed up against LeBron, but um,
Oh.
yelling at the ref, not LeBron. Those guys are butt buddies, but
Yeah,
but yeah,
exactly.
okay. All right, that's basketball. That's hoops. Draft was last
Yep.
night. It went about how you might expect it, I guess. Cooper flagged first, and that was basically. People say this is a really deep draft, but I don't know. We'll have to see. There was one guy I
Yeah.
really liked, the Chinese guy who was in the stands, Hanson Yang, I think it was, or something like that. Um,
Yang Hansen, I think,
yeah,
actually.
Yang Hanson. Dude, he looks like a Chinese Jokic. If you look at the highlights that they were playing for him, and it was pretty badass that he was just sitting in the crowd and walked down onto the stage from the crowd.
Yeah.
So that was pretty sick. Also, the Nets
A
had
little bit of
5
a
first round picks. That was also pretty wild, and they
they're
didn't
building
trade a
something.
single one. So if they wanted to, they could just start 5 rookies next year, all first rounders. So that was pretty
Yep.
wild too.
After the finals ended, I watched it with friend of the show, Jake Baldwin. And he asked me immediately after, he said, way too early predictions for next year. And I said, Brooklyn Nets, watch out. So uh, I don't know. 5
One
round
of
picks
them's
will have to
got to
show up
hit. One of them's got to hit. I
early. Um,
think one of them's got to be like, above like a 15 point per game score. You got to hit on one of those as a rookie. So
yeah. One other thing about the Hanson guy. You said he's like a Chinese Jokic. I think he's just Yao Ming. I mean, he's 7 foot, Chinese.
yeah, but he does
That's
some
about it.
badass
That's about it.
passes
But
too, though. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I hope he does well. He looked cool. That's all
yeah.
I gotta say about
And
him.
it was kind of a reach. People thought it was a reach. So, I mean,
Yeah,
obviously
yeah,
he was
well,
in the
yeah.
crowd.
He was sitting down there. Um, but
Yep.
yeah,
Arizona, Carter Bryant goes to the Spurs. That's a good
I
spot
saw
for him.
that. Yeah, I
Um,
was I was shocked about the Illinois guy falling so far. Kasparis, Jacka Jonas or something like that. I thought he
yeah.
was really good when I went to the Bragging Rights game. Like he just looked like an NBA guy. So would not shock me if
Well,
he's good. Yeah.
yep. I can't sit there and watch the NBA draft because it feels like it's not the same as the NFL. It's drafts aren't really that fun, but the NFL does make it fun. I
Yeah.
don't know.
The
It's a
NBA's is
little
a
bit
lot
different.
more quick, it feels like. But I
Yeah.
was just watching on my iPad. Pretty easy.
Yeah. That's a good way to do it. Just like on in the background.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
You want to get into NFL?
Yeah. Couple big, funny, big things, actually. Um, what do you want to start with? You want to,
I
which
think we should
bad
do the
Steelers thing?
crossover. My favorite player, NFL player of all time, signing with your favorite team. I think that Aaron Rodgers, which we kind of all knew was going to happen. Like he's been
Yeah.
teasing it for months, and
Months.
apparently they had like a deal in place that was just whenever you're done with your off-season shenanigans, Rodgers like will sign you, and that's what happened. So, how are you feeling about it?
I uh I just don't feel that great about anything about the Steelers. And it really started with the George Pickens thing when they traded him to the Cowboys. And a lot of stuff has come out about George Pickens being kind of an asshole since he's gotten traded and stuff, about things he said to former teammates and stuff, said on social media, and then it gets deleted and they just say it's fake all the time. Um, One thing I saw last night was that he had a youth football camp. George Pickens did, and even after he got traded, he said he was going to do it, and then just like yesterday, he's backed out of it, and it's coming up like next week or something like that. So Pat Fryermuth is going to do it for him because he's the class act, and he's going to get some teammates together to do it because they're also class act. But back to Rodgers. So I was feeling pretty shitty about the Steelers. And I kind of knew, like you just said, like I kind of knew that they were going to sign him in a couple months down the road, because for a while we were literally rocking with a quarterback room of fucking Mason Rudolph and Will Howard and one other Joe bloke who
Will Howard, he can win the big one.
he can win the big one. I'm not
It's
hating
true.
on Will, but I'm not trying to start him either. And if we would have sent Mason Rudolph out there with that mustache and whatever, I think they would compete, but I think they'd go like 7-10 or 6-11. And I think with signing Rodgers, I think your ceiling is probably like 10-7 with a good year from Rodgers. But they could very easily be 8-9, 9-8, seven and
They won't
ten
be
as
8-9.
well.
They won't be 8-9 because Mike Tomlin doesn't get losing
Yeah, no,
records.
that's
You forget
true.
that.
That's true. I
Nine
don't
and
know
eight's
how
the
that just
minimum.
skipped. See, I'm so upset that one of my favorite Steelers stats escapes my brain. Yeah, but and if you want it, honestly, for me, and I've said this to you before. I mean, they should tank. They should absolutely tank, and it sucks because they have a great defense, or they have great defensive pieces. Their defense is slowly withering away over the years, but which we all said was going to happen if they didn't get a quarterback, and that has just slowly become true. But they have a good defense still, some great playmakers on that defense, and it doesn't really matter because of the quarterback situation, and so they should just tank and try to get a top pick in the draft, because right now you're in purgatory, you're in quarterback purgatory as well, where you can't get above average quarterback play over the last few years, and you got to tank. But the Steelers fan base would never allow it because they just don't know how to lose. They're spoiled, even though they have not won anything in forever. They're still spoiled with winning seasons. They just don't know how to lose. It's been so goddamn long. And Mike Tomlin, I mean, if he went like 3-14, he'd get fired finally. But and so he's not going to want to tank either because he wants to continue to coach.
But
It's a
here's the
mess.
thing: he only has 1 year left on his contract. Is this the last year? Is this the last ride for Mike Tomlin? You think he'll just retire after this?
Well, it depends. If he wins 10 or more games, 10 is gonna be weird.
10-7?
10-7 and
You're
they
gonna
make the
re-sign him?
playoffs. If they go 10 and
Lose,
7,
get
make the
blown out first
playoffs.
round?
If they get blown out first round, I don't think you resign him. I think if you win a playoff game with Rodgers, I think he gets re-signed. But I would not go much further than like a 2-year deal because
Yeah,
you still don't have a quarterback, so you need to be able to fire him after 1 year. If after Rodgers next year, or the following year, the first year without Rodgers, if that doesn't work out, you got to be able to let him go. I mean, if he
I
goes
think it's
11-6,
last year,
but
but
yeah, I know. But I'm saying if they, and just how the Steelers are, it's like they're a business like organization, just like they all are, but they are very family oriented too, and they love Mike. Mike's been there for so long. You haven't had to worry about the head coach position for a while, and
yeah,
you really
he's a
have.
good
It's
coach
not.
though.
Yeah, no, he is a damn good coach. They're not losing games because of Mike Tom. They've been losing
So,
games because they can't find a quarterback, and that Mike can't fully solve that. He's a defensive-minded coach, first off, but I mean, he can't. You can't expect him to be a quarterback whisperer either. I mean, you can't expect them just because they drafted Will Howard for him to turn out either. It's not like you spent a high pick on that. Yeah, you let him ride with Kenny Pickett, but I don't think that guy was Mike's first choice either. But even if it was, like I said, you can't really count on him to make the quarterback good. And at that time, they still had a domestic terrorist at OC. And
you are just perpetually getting domestic terrorists at OC. You went from Matt Canada, who that's like Osama bin Laden, and then you went to Arthur Smith, who's like Ted Kaczynski. Like didn't kill as many people, but
yeah,
still the attacks were there.
Yeah, and that's Mike Tomlin's fault, I think. He's
it,
signing
yeah,
off on this for these guys to be on his staff, and he just wants football guys on his staff. Like Arthur Smith is a football guy, for sure.
mm-hmm.
And he wants those guys on his staff, but you can't be signing off on that, especially after coming from Matt Canada. I mean, we got to evolve into today's NFL, and they have not done that, which is just mind-boggling.
Yeah. And also, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I didn't mean to cut
it's
you
just
off.
it's just mind-boggling that they haven't done it, and it's impossible to evolve in the NFL unless you find the quarterback, because that's just how it's centered nowadays. I mean, there's so many teams in limbo, that just haven't gotten the quarterback yet. I mean, they're not the only ones, but that's the main problem, and that's just how it is.
Yeah. And back to the tanking thing, I just have one more point to add. You met like their roster construction right now makes sense to tank, but also the shape of their conference. Like when you have the Chiefs with Mahomes, the Bills with Josh Allen, and the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, like one of those three is gonna go to the Super Bowl. Like no one else really has a chance. You can maybe even say the Bengals with Joe Burrow, but their roster is in a lot of turmoil. Maybe we'll get to that in a second, but they're also the Bengals. But they have done it before. So like you're not going to go to the Super Bowl. So it's a good time to tank. In the AFC, if you're tanking right now, it's actually probably a good thing. You're preparing for a few years down the line when maybe some of those guys start to fall off a little bit.
Yeah, and you know what though? I mean, I think it's entirely fair to say, that the Steelers have just been a good quarterback. I'm not talking a mediocre and even a slightly above mediocre quarterback away from being good, but the Steelers have been a good quarterback away from being good for a while because they've had such a good defense. And like you said, I mean, they make the playoffs a lot, and in a lot of these they get blown out, but that's because those are the freaking games where you have to have a quarterback. That's when it starts, and they just
All
have.
right. So you need a quarterback. Just a hypothetical scenario right here. Let's say Big Ben Roethlisberger was willing to come out of retirement to be the Steelers quarterback next year. Would you be happy about that signing?
That would be, oh my gosh, that'd be so funny. It would be funny if like
Yeah.
Rodgers died like week 12, Rudolph also dies like week 13, like gets his face mask pulled off, and they don't want to go to like a Duck Hodges type, or maybe they'll go to Will Howard, and it's just really sad. And then if Big Ben was like, I've just been waiting for the call, Mike, if you want to just hit me up, I'll be there for you. And I think it would be pretty funny, but I mean, he was a microwave this last year, so that would be
Yeah.
very tough. But it would be really funny to think if he thought he could save the team. That would be funny to see.
Oh, I could see it right now. Like Rodgers tears his ACL like week 13, but the Steelers they're in the playoff hunt, and then week 18 they're fighting to get a better seed. Mason Rudolph gets concussed and he's out for the next week, and Big Ben's like, "Hey, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I know the playbook."
He's been
Uh,
ready, yeah.
yeah, that would be funny to see him just step up in a playoff game. Kind of like the 49ers were going to do with Phillip Rivers a few years ago when they had that fiasco in the title game. Um, Anyways, the other news, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but Shemar Stewart with the Bengals, the contract holdout, they're not signing him. They're not giving him a first round salary, I guess. They don't want him. This is the most Bengals thing ever, too. They just had maybe the worst season, if one of the worst, if not the worst, defensive season in NFL history. At the same time, you have an all-time quarterback and an all-time wide receiver. And their O-line could use some work for sure, but it's been way better than what it was a few years ago. And they get a first-round defensive lineman. Well, first off, the Trey Hendrickson situation, the guy that led the league in sacks, and they're like, we're not going to pay you. Really, if you want to stay on the team, you got to take a pay cut. Like, okay, this is the NFL. Anybody will sign a guy that can get sacks. And then they draft Shemar Stewart, and they just are refusing to pay him. And I get what people are saying. Like, yeah, he's a rookie. He doesn't have a lot of leverage to use here, but he should get like first rounders get paid millions. Like, they get a huge signing bonus because they're a first round pick. It takes a lot of work to get there, and it's hard to do. And I don't know. It's the
Yeah,
Bengals.
it's
They
weird. I think he's literally just asking for what that normal pick number gets. That normal
yeah.
guaranteed money, what that normal guaranteed money gets, what that guaranteed bonus is usually for players drafted right at that spot, and then something else. I think it's something with like might be like with player contract insurance or I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, Luke, but it has been really weird. It's been funny though. I mean, the Bengals are so damn cheap. If it is not a flashy toy, they have such a hard time, giving the money out for that. And think about how hard it was for them to sign Jamar Chase. He's literally the second best wide
Oh
receiver in
God.
football, and it took them ages for them to sign him. Um,
Yeah. I
he's
don't
with
even
his
think their owner, Mike Brown, really wanted to sign him. He
yeah.
probably started crying when everyone around him is like, "You have to sign this guy or the fans will revolt and probably hang you publicly." And he's like, all right, fine, fine, I'll pay him." It wasn't like excited to keep him on the team. It was like, damn it, I got to spend money. And it sucks. Those teams are just the absolute worst. There's a ton of them in the MLB, and there's a ton of them in the NBA. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense why you would own a sport. I guess it does make sense in this situation because it's been like a family owned business. Just same way with the Bears. Like, their ownership sucks, but they've owned it for
Those
over
guys are a
100
bunch of
years.
doofuses. It's so
Oh my God.
crazy
Yeah.
the ownership for them. It's so funny.
Yeah. And I do worry about, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but I do worry about like that same situation with the Cardinals. That call from mom will have to wait.
Classic. Yeah.
uh, That's funny. All
uh,
right.
we'll try to fly
I
through
do.
these other
I do worry
ones.
about the Cardinals though. Like when
Yeah,
Bill DeWitt dies and his son getting it, because he gives off the vibes of that same. It just doesn't care about like the team or winning or it's money. So it's just
yeah.
those
I
people
don't
they
know how
suck.
you entrust your kids to that if you know they're not into sports. Like as a
It's your
dad,
kid though.
I know I get
Yeah,
that, but if DeWitt really, really cared, even if it is his kid, if he cares about sports, then he wouldn't give it to his kid. He could give his kid a shitload of money, but
true.
sell it to somebody that is going to give a shit. Um,
Yep, I agree
that's
with
it.
that. I do think Bill DeWitt cares. If
Yeah,
you read his story, he's a
I,
big time baseball guy. He's just
I
getting
agree
really
he
old.
does.
He's had a lot of health
No,
issues, but yeah,
I'm not
it's
saying he doesn't. I'm just saying the move of somebody that really cares about baseball and winning and the game of baseball itself would probably, if you know that your son is not going to take good care of it, you can still cash him out here, but just, don't fuck over the
true.
Cardinals forever.
Yeah,
Shit
exactly.
to
Yeah,
take.
put it in good hands. But I do get it at this. Like it's you spent your whole life like building this big organization, running it, being the head of it, and like you want to pass it on to your kids, especially because his son has been involved with the team for over a decade. It's like he's been working with the team, but I don't know. That was
Yeah,
a
and
little
I'm
too off
sure he
topic
would
there.
be heartbroken, but yeah, that's just my take though. Okay, well, let me just run through these real quick. Nick Chubb to the Texans. What do you think about that? I don't know if that really moves the needle for me. Depends on
Yeah,
how his knee is.
yeah, they got Joe Mixon, so
Yeah, and he was great last
yeah,
year. Your
good running back,
boy Jair to the Ravens.
perfect
That's
Raven,
Yeah, definitely a
great
perfect Raven.
potential, but always injured. So
That is very true. Yeah, we probably won't
he'll
see
fit.
him like after week 10 for sure. So.
Probably won't see him before week 10 either.
um. Oh, and yeah, T.J. Watt holding out too. That's the other Steelers thing that's
It's a
not
big one.
great, Luke. I mean, although I will say this. Well, it's too late now. We already signed Rodgers. But if we wouldn't have signed Rodgers and T.J. Watt would have just held out,
Tank.
could have tanked. The fans would have been like, "Oh, our quarterback position is screwed, and our best player on the team is not playing. So maybe we should tank." I feel like that would have been way easier to tank like that. But
Oh
obviously,
yeah,
I
for sure.
I want T.J. Watt back, but I've teetered with this. Like you could get a lot for him right now because he just wrecks the shit out of a game. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. He's an active Hall of Famer playing that is not washed. So you can get a lot for him, but a part of it is like he's also the only reason why he wins some of these games because of the plays he makes, which is why it makes his value so incredible. But tough scene, I'll say that.
Yeah, it would be weird to see him in a different jersey. He's one of those guys that you just want to see play their whole career in one jersey. He's
That's how I
become
usually feel about linebackers and rushing. Like Lawrence Taylor played for the same team his whole career. Myles Garrett has played for the same team his whole career. Pretty sure
as
Deacon
of
Jones.
now.
Yeah, that is true. You're right about that.
So J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald, all the
Well,
greats.
Cardinals, but yeah.
I forgot about that. Never mind, not J.J. Watt. Yeah, you're right. See, he's such a Texan that I forgot he was a Cardinal.
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean, though.
You want to get into a little bit of baseball? There hasn't been much that's happened.
Yeah, if you want to briefly take the lead on that.
Yeah, baseball. I like watching it. I like the games, but the storylines just don't compare to the other sports, and I'll admit that. But the Cardinals played the Cubs this week, which was fun. First two games in the series were awesome, just incredible wins, incredible performances, and then the last 2 days we've been shut out, and it just feels like the team did not come ready to play either of those games, which sucks because it's against the Cubs, and if you win one of those games, you get a series win, 3 out of 4, and that's big. But at the same time, this team is still overperforming expectations, so you can only be so mad at them. I see you have a baseball question for me though on our preparation sheet.
Yeah, this is from a while back, so I don't know stats on this now. But my question was for Luke, actually, was how long is Paul Skeens going to take the absolute disaster class of a team that he's playing on? How long does he have to do that? I would assume just through arbitration, but unless he just forced a trade. But as I'm writing this, which this is not true because I have not written this in like 2 or 3 weeks, but at the time he was 19 earned runs and 13 starts, which is insane. But they were 5-8 in those games. I mean, that's like Joe Burrow, basically. So
Yeah, and it's the same ownership wise with the Pirates and the Bengals. They signed one of their best players, Brian Reynolds, a couple years ago to I think it was 6 years, but it was $105 million contract. It was the first time they'd given out $100 million contract in franchise history. I think they were the
crazy.
last team. Like even the Marlins have done that before. So it's yeah, it's pretty crazy that how bad they are. But I don't know. They've been playing a little bit better since they fired their manager, but their lineup is so bad.
Yeah.
Like
I guess the question
when you have like
is it possible? Do you think can he get out of it?
um if he really really wants to, he probably can just because of how good he is and how young. Like he's got 5 years left of team control, and no one is this good with that much control left. Like if they wanted to trade him, he would probably be the most valuable asset in like the history of baseball. They could get so much for him, like Juan Soto on steroids almost. Like that package the Nationals got for him, where they got James Wood, Mackenzie Gore, who are both going to be all stars this year. By the way, Robert Hassel, who will be a future all star, calling it now. I mean, they just got C.J. Abrams, who was an all-star last year, all was in the Juan Soto trade. It would be the same way, like if the Pirates wanted to do it. Um, but Paul Skeens he doesn't really seem to care about a lot of things. I don't know if you've ever like seen any of his interviews. He is just the most nonchalant guy ever. Yeah, it probably doesn't feel real good, when he goes out, pitches 8 innings, gives up 1 earned run, and they lose the game 1-0. Which that happened a couple weeks ago, probably right as you were writing that
Yeah, I mean, I
question.
would imagine that's very numbing to the brain.
Yeah, it probably sucks, but at the same time, he has to know he plays on the Pirates. Um, so he probably doesn't have a lot of high expectations to begin with. And, at the end of the day, he gets to go home with Livy Dunn. So I don't think he's really too upset
Yeah,
about
no, that's
his
fine. Yeah,
situation. And he's still like, yeah, he's won Rookie of the Year last year, and he's going to be a Cy Young contender this year, but he's still got to prove himself, a little bit more, I feel like, which shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, I don't see him asking out, at least for a number of years,
yeah.
unless
I
it
think
just
it might
gets
be too
really bad. Like
classy for him to do that.
if it gets into like arbitration and the Pirates are really screwing him over, which they probably will, then I could see him maybe, starting to get a little angry. But until then, which I think he's still got 2 more off seasons until he has to deal with that. So until then, I don't think it's really going to be a big problem.
Gotcha. Well, what do you want to jump to now?
You want to debut this segment? Starting
Yeah, I
five?
think so. Yeah, sure.
All right. I'll let you explain it because it was your idea to come up with this.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so basically, we call it starting fives. And basically, what we're going to do is we're going to try to draft a starting five group of whatever. So we're gonna have starting five groups of different kinds of draft topics. For example, it could be ice cream flavors. So then me and Luke will just go back and forth on what ice cream flavor we would pick to have on our team. If for these two teams, if they were to match up against each other, you know what I mean. So that's basically how it works, and how we're going to determine who goes first, who gets the first pick, is a wheel of names that just has me and Luke's
Oh,
name on it.
I think we should do rock paper scissors personally,
Okay,
but
I can do that too. Yeah, that's fine.
at least
Um,
for the first time here.
yeah, sure, that's definitely fine. And then, but today's draft topic is places to see a sporting event slash like events in general. Okay, so stadiums and whatnot. So there's gonna be
Are
10
we
picks.
are we doing like a snake draft? It's kind of weird to do a snake draft with two people, but
No,
are
I
we
think we're
doing a
just gonna
snake
go
draft
back and
or
forth.
okay,
The
okay.
snake
Yeah,
draft would
I
be
like that.
funny, but yeah,
With two people, the snake draft it's really weird. Fantasy sports
it's
and you have
dumb.
10, 12 people in the league makes sense, but because if you get the 10th pick in a fantasy league, like and it's not a snake draft, you're really screwed. But
Yep.
two people, that would be that'd be
It'd
weird.
be pretty stupid. I don't know if we could keep track of that. Just how dumb we are. But all right, rock paper scissors here.
2 out of 3, is that what we're doing?
I'm thinking about this. Could be funny because the delay could really screw us here with the
Yeah.
with the software.
Yep. All right.
All right, you got it. You got it.
All right.
I'll just
Let's
we're just
go.
going in one because that was
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah. Imagine if we tied. Oh God,
Yeah.
had to do it again. All right. First pick in the places to see a sporting event. I'm just gonna have to go with the Mecca. I think.
Ah,
Yeah, I knew you were gonna take it next, so I have to take it 1-1. The Mecca. There's no other place that I would want to go to see a basketball game. Um, it just it being in downtown New York. Um, just the history that's in that building. Um, it seems electric. Just the rowdiest fans. I mean, New York. Um, Going there to see Rangers games, Knicks games, and St. John's games too. They packed the house for St. John's this year, and it's the Mecca. So I gotta take that one.
yeah. No, I had that very high on my board. Um, but with my first pick, I'm gonna take the Rose Bowl. Um, I've wanted to go there forever to see the Rose Bowl. I think they just had like a big soccer game there too, and I'm sure it would be pretty badass to see concert there. Um, the Super Bowl's been there and whatever, but I would love to go to the Rose Bowl. It always looks so sweet. So that is my 1-1, I think.
That's a good pick. I like that. Well, it's not your 1-1 because you would have taken Madison Square
That
Garden,
no,
but
I had Rose Bowl over playoff game at Madison Square Garden.
oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me pull up my list here. I'm gonna go with a little bit of a homer pick here, but being in that arena every single game last year, it was, and the team being really good did help too, but that was one of the most electric atmospheres I've ever been in my life. Mizzou Arena,
All right.
just
Nice. I respect that
just
pick.
a just a great. I love being in there, so can't wait to be back in there next year.
All right. Okay. I would say the next debate, like the type of atmosphere I would like to go see a sporting event would probably. So this is where I have a dilemma. I don't know because I thought I built it into the rules to be like this because like see if I was going to take Madison Square Garden, I was going to say a playoff game at Madison Square Garden. Because just
Oh, gotcha.
for the just an event in general, My number two pick would be the Super Bowl.
Okay. Hope you're rich,
Yeah.
so you can
No, yeah.
pay
That,
10
that's got
grand to get into it.
that's got to be an all expenses paid for by like some lottery that you win. But that would
You got to
be
win the sweepstakes.
unbelievable. You would get to see a badass concert too, which is pretty
Yeah,
sweet about getting to go see a sporting event. One of the best concerts of the year for short, but pretty sweet.
it's a good point. 2-1 there. I like it. So this next pick is not like a. It's not an arena. Um, but it is my favorite place to go to see sporting events and really events in general, and that is Cam's movie room. Uh, I mean, just watching the wild card weekend there, watching
Oh,
March
that is the
Madness,
best.
NBA Finals, with this big ass screen right in front of you. You got the double decker rows, recliner seats in the first row. Um, and if you got all the guys there, it makes it just that much better too. But there's no better place to watch sports on a TV. Like it's the best viewing from home experience imaginable. So I got to take it. I got to put it on the board.
That was a that was a pretty sick pick. I won't lie. That brings a smile for sure. It's true. We've had so many great memories up there with the
Yeah,
fellas.
we've had a lot of great show me show moments there.
Yeah, for sure. Um,
So
okay, I'm gonna take for my third pick, Augusta at the Masters. I think that'd be really sweet to just go once. And I'm not even that big of a golf guy, but I would love to go one time because I think that's all you would really have to go to just see it all. The pageantry, following the guy that's going to win, go down the final green, of 18. Um, that'd just be sweet. So I would definitely say the Masters would be a really cool one.
yeah, I like that pick. I'm actually I didn't put that on my list, and I'm now bummed out that I didn't even have it on my list. I didn't think about it. But it's just so unique, that environment. Like that
Yeah,
they
it
take your
is.
phones at the beginning. Like they call it's not spectators or fans, they're patrons.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep.
Um the pimento cheese sandwich, you gotta get that too. What it's only like $2, I think, or something like that.
Something crazy.
And that's the only place you can get Masters merch too,
Yeah.
is at the Masters. They don't sell it online or anything. You have to go to the Masters. And it's a super exclusive thing to get into as well. Like you have to put your name in like a ticket claim like 2 months before it comes out. You just got to hope you get it. Like
Yeah.
you have to luck into tickets. That's the only way. So that's pretty cool. Um, I'm a big baseball guy, and there's so many great like historic ballparks. Um, the one I have written down, actually, I'm not gonna say. I'll say Wrigley Field.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I
No,
was gonna
I had
say
it on my
Oracle
list.
Park. Um, Oracle Park is the Giant Stadium, and that since I've been to Wrigley, Oracle Park is like my one that I really want to go to now. It's just such a beautiful stadium with the cove right there. But Wrigley Field, that is the best atmosphere to watch baseball. And Busch Stadium is great. Don't get me wrong. I love going to Busch Stadium. It's a great atmosphere. But Wrigley, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
The old stadium, the ivy in the outfield. The fans are always rowdy, and the hot dogs. The Wrigley dog, when I went there the last time, I got that, and then I went back and I got another one a few innings later because it was that good. So, um, if I lived in Chicago, I'd probably be going as much as I can. So, Wrigley Field.
Okay, so it's getting tough here at the end, but I think I'm going to go with uh the Final Four. Um, I think like a place like San Antonio would be like a really sweet place to watch it because it seems like it's always really cool there. But just the Final Four, just getting that's kind of like the Super Bowl pick. Um, I want to go to one. It's got to be. just the coolest. I mean, just two. I mean, getting to go to two games, um, that means so much to the players because that's why we always talk about what makes college so great is what the players are playing for. Once you get into the real playoffs and there's nothing like March Madness. So I think a Final Four
Yeah.
would be really sick. But
Yeah, it would be. I don't know. I'd like watching the Final Four from home. I'm fine not ever going to that,
yeah,
to be honest.
oh,
But
I would kill to go if Mizzou was ever in it. We'd
yeah,
never,
that's a different
I mean,
story.
that's just one I would love to go.
Yeah, that's a different story. That's true though. Man, the last pick. I'm debating between two right now. They're both kind of. From what I've got from this draft is that me and you were thinking two different things. Like you were thinking like events to go to, and I was thinking like places to see events at.
No, I have stadiums on
Um,
there too, but
yeah, that's
uh,
true. Um, I'll go with I'll go with this one. Um, any place where I can sit next to Sydney Sweeney the whole time. I think that's the best. That'll round out my top five. It doesn't matter the place, the stadium, the event. Really, if I get to sit next to her the whole time, I mean, it would be cool.
that's a crazy pander, but okay.
Who am I pandering to?
I don't know. I don't know, but so any event is it is this a sports event? Any sporting event that you can sit next to Sydney
Sure.
Sweeney?
Concert, show.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a immediate bonk, but okay. Um
Yeah, sure. I'm fine with that.
okay. I think for my last one, I'd love to go to UNC at Duke at Hansborough
I like
Indoor.
that.
Um, that would be sick. And I'd like to go to the Dean Dome to watch them play that game at home too, but there's nothing like beating Duke at Duke. So like getting to be there for that would be just so badass. So I think I would go with UNC
Yeah.
at Duke.
Yeah, but if you were wearing your UNC stuff and they won, you might get killed after the game. But
Yeah, but they go. You'll see a few stragglers there. Um, one I've thought about that would be really cool just because I just remember watching this game and I was like, holy shit, to actually be able to go to this game would be unbelievable. And that would be the World Cup final. You know what I mean? That would be unbelievable.
yeah. Yeah, I'm just not that big of a soccer
Me
fan,
either.
but
But like I
the
remember
stakes of
watching the final.
that,
Yeah.
oh,
It's
man.
insane. I mean it's there's nothing else like that. So
Yeah, especially like a few years ago when Messi finally won it with Argentina. That would have been so cool to see in person.
that's the one I'm thinking of because that's the last one I really remember being like, "Oh, this is insane." People are going absolutely bonkers. But
Yeah. Do you want to do some honorable mentions?
yeah, I
Things we
got some
thought
honorable
of
ones.
but just
Yeah.
didn't make the cut? Okay. Um so I had Oracle Park, obviously. I mentioned that earlier. I also had Miller Park on there. Just not like I would really want to go there, but I've been to 10, 11 MLB stadiums now. And Miller Park is maybe my favorite just to I mean Wrigley I obviously picked and Busch I like, but Miller Park was surprisingly I guess it's American Family Park now, I guess. But it's such a clean stadium. The layout of it is so nice. And it's really just a cool baseball stadium. I recommend it. If you ever go to Milwaukee, go to a Brewers game. Parking there is they got this big ass lot because it's a little bit outside the city and it's super cheap. It's like $10 the park, which at Wrigley it's $60 and then you have to walk a mile to the stadium. So that sucks. Um, I also had North Korea Stadium. I looked up the name of it.
Crazy
It's called
looking.
Rungrado First of May Stadium.
Yeah, crazy stadium.
Yeah, it holds a capacity of 114,000 people
Crazy.
right now, but they're renovating it to hold 150,000 people. So I don't know what type of
Crazy.
events they hold in that stadium, but because
Yeah.
we don't really know what goes on in North Korea,
Can't
because we don't
imagine
have
it's
anybody there,
sports.
and maybe I don't know. It's
I have
shitty
no
sports,
idea.
I'd imagine, but just the worst sports you've ever seen. But just to be there and that if it's sold out, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then my last one that I had was a UFC event,
A a what
particularly
event?
a UFC event. UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Oh, I thought you were saying USC. I'm like, why?
Oh,
Gotcha. No, those would be really
no,
sweet too.
UFC. Yeah. So and they come to
Okay.
Kansas City and St. Louis a lot, but that'd be cool just to
Hmm.
be in that. And just once. I like watching it from home, but just
Yeah.
once I'd like to go.
I had Omaha College World Series. Those look really sick. I'm not gonna lie. The people that's like where it really starts to matter, it feels like for the fans. Um
Yeah.
I would say it would be so cool to go to a college basketball game on a battleship. I remember one time when I was little, when North Carolina played Michigan State on a battleship. That was so badass.
Do they have fans at those games?
I think it was mostly troops. I think select few people were able to go, maybe parents and stuff. I don't know.
Gotcha.
And then I had Bama at LSU night game for football. Those are just insane, unbelievable, especially if both teams are good. I don't know if there's anything like that. Obviously, the Iron Bowl is awesome, but night games, Death Valley, when it's Bama visiting and they're both like ranked like top 10, there's not a whole lot like that atmosphere. So, yeah, those were mine as well.
Nice. That was a good draft. I
Yeah,
think maybe next time we need to be a little more specific on the category because it felt
yeah,
like me and you were doing two
yeah.
different
No, I
drafts. But
agree.
um, it's all
Working
right.
out the
We're warming
kinks,
up.
yeah,
Yeah, working out the kinks. It's one thing that we don't do beforehand is work out the kinks. We
nope,
just do them live on the show.
yeah. Why would we do that?
So,
But yeah. All right. Well, we could do quick tough scene. How long are we at in the show? Where are we at here?
hour and 7 minutes. So we've had a good little show here.
All right. Yeah, we'll do a quick tough scene. Try to go quick here. My first one is actually, if you're watching the YouTube, um, and see just how stupid I look right now. Uh, Earlier
Yeah.
today at work, I snapped my headphone band on my Beats, and it barely stays on my head. I'm not gonna be able to use it at the gym. So tomorrow is gonna be crazy at the gym. Just psychopath, no music or anything. Just trying to fight through it, fight through the noises and the voices, basically. The walls
You
might
don't
start
have
talking as
AirPods?
well. No, I do, but they are. I'm pretty sure they're both in Columbia. So,
Oh,
but
nice. So I could just
if
walk
I
over
find
and
a
find them.
pair, yeah, if I find a pair, I'll try and charge them and just go with it, see how bad they are, because they were really bad when I stopped using them. But so yeah, that's my tough scene. I can buy the band on Amazon. I think if I order before 8 p.m., it might get here Saturday. But so that wouldn't be too long without it. But I'd have to see if my dumbass can actually fix it with the supplies that they send, because it looks screwed. It looks messed up. Like it looks like I need to send it in. But Colin broke his, and he had a similar break, and he said I should just be able to get the headband, screw it back in, or the new headband. But yeah, so yeah, tough scene.
Yeah,
I was
you
pissed.
look really dumb.
Yeah, no, I look stupid
Can
with
you?
that.
It doesn't like you can't like put it over your ear.
So if I do, it just like this is the piece that broke, and like you need that to bend over your ear to like hold it, and it's not stable.
Gotcha.
I don't
But
know.
you
I
still have
just
sound through it.
yeah yeah. In fact, I just it like it sounds much more clear with both headphones on. Uh,
You
but
could just like put a roll of tape
I already
like
tried.
around your head. Oh,
Oh, around my head.
yeah, like not like tape it together, but just like tape it in place almost. Like put it over your ear.
Yeah, that would be better for sure. Uh,
Oh, it would
yeah,
look equally as dumb, but at least it would
yeah,
be
it would
comfortable.
work actually. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Um, so yeah, that's my tough scene. Also, John Jones retired, and I have not really watched UFC since we've left school. And he was like the only guy I was like looking forward to if he fought against Tom Aspinall. I was really hoping that would happen,
Yeah.
but it's not going to
Yeah, me
happen.
too.
Aspinall's the champ, and I wish I got to watch more fights of him since I've been a fan. I only got to watch one because since I've watched, he was like on a big hiatus, and then he finally fought that one guy and just whooped him. Um,
Yeah.
so
Well, he was
I'll
hurt,
miss.
but
Yeah, I know, but it sucks. And then I also had the NBA being cheap. Okay, this was dumb. The whole finals, they did not have any finals logos on the court, or it took them. I felt like a couple games before they were even on like the jerseys, and I don't even know if they were on the jerseys or if they were just on the shoot around shirts. It was crazy, but they had no finals logos on the court, which I get. This is like very old man yell at cloud like, hey, why aren't they putting the stuff on the courts? But come on. They say it's like for player safety or whatever, but like they have crazy shit on the courts when they do the NBA Cup and when they do like the All Star game. They have weird stuff all over the courts. And they try to just put like the projections onto the screen, but it's just not the same. I feel because it's not on the screen the whole time, and it just looks a little funky. And then the other funny thing was that they like for just randomly they just decided to stop doing player intros. Um, and I think they've actually stopped doing that for a couple of years. But this year on ESPN they absolutely did not do player intros, and it just like went right into the game. And it was like that's a cool part about the finals is the home arenas that are sold out, and you get to see these player intros. I mean, you see them in other sports sometimes. Why are they not doing it? The broadcast crew, I know that this has been their broadcast crew for all season, um, but it's one of the worst ones for the NBA Finals. Mike Breen is pretty good. Definitely not my favorite, but Mike Breen is good.
yeah.
I will say that.
People are
Dorsey,
saying Mike Breen is
Dorsey.
washed.
I don't think he's as good as even like Kevin Harlan, but
Oh
um,
no.
or even Ian Eagle, but
But that's
um,
like saying like no one is as good as, you know, Tom Brady all time.
yeah, I know,
It's
but
like, yeah,
I
he's
just
Tom
don't get
Brady.
why he doesn't get to do it, though, which sucks.
Yeah.
But Endorse Burke is good, but she is not. I don't know. She wasn't that interesting to listen to during the finals, and I don't know if that's just because she didn't play, and not that color guys really do play all the time, but a lot of the times they do, and she's just not that fun to listen to. And then Richard Jefferson started to grow on me during the finals. He progressively got a little bit better. Um, but even that crew doesn't compare to like Mark Jackson and Van Gundy. You know what I mean? Like that crew was more fun to listen to, even if they were way dumber than Burke and Richard Jefferson. But uh, and then the
Yeah,
other
you know,
funny
like
thing,
they'd just be doing a random Spurs Rockets game in the middle of December, and you got them going back and forth. Of Jeff Gundy's like, well, what does second cousin mean?
yeah,
What can
yeah,
you
it's
do?
like they had good basketball analysis, and they also had like Bill Walton esque traits, which
Not
made it
quite, but
yeah no
yeah,
exactly, And Bill Walton didn't really talk about basketball. He didn't really have that trait hardly at all. But Mark Jackson and Van Gundy, they had the basketball trait, and the Bill Walton-esque just talking about weird shit, which I just miss. And I miss both of their voices on that. And they weren't my favorite crew either at the time. But now it's like, oh man, now that it's gone, I miss it. And then their hats looked so stupid. It looked like a hat like that you find at like Pivot Sports. You know what I mean? Like it was not like a cool looking NBA champ hat. It looked like they put no time into it. And maybe that's just the style today, but that just didn't look like an NBA Finals. Um, so
Well, to be fair, it was the Thunder and the Pacers, so
yeah,
it,
but
it didn't really look like
it
the NBA
doesn't
Finals
matter.
in general.
It doesn't. That's not
Yeah,
the
but
point.
maybe they just like
They
forgot
cheaped
that it
out
was the
this
NBA
series, and
Finals.
that
Maybe
is the
they're
tough
like
scene.
Pacers Thunder. Surely that's not the finals, so we're not going to put any stuff on the court.
Yeah, I guess that's
Yeah,
fair. I
yeah.
don't know. They
ESPN
cheaped out.
is their broadcast has been so bad that maybe they had the same thought. They're like, oh, Thunder and Pacers. Like, who are those teams? Oklahoma City. Where's that at? You know,
Yeah.
Indiana. Where's Indiana? You know, uh, man, what a tough scene for ESPN. I'm getting frustrated with them because their baseball coverage has been noticeably really bad for years.
Really.
So bad, so bad. Yeah.
Their NFL
Eduardo
improved
Perez.
drastically, though.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, with Joe and Troy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
that,
for a
you
while
can't
there,
beat that.
it was the worst.
They
For a while
had
there,
some
it
weird
was the
stuff
worst.
with Booger. When Booger was on, they were not very good. But I liked Lewis
Yeah,
Riddick at the time. Uh, yeah, it was Lewis Riddick. I liked, and I still like him when he was
yeah,
on. But he does
yeah.
a good
But
job with
they
college
hire
football.
the like they do a good job with college. That's true. But I don't know, ESPN, their game day set, like with Jay Billis. I hate Jay Billis so much. Um, yeah, their MLB sucks. Their NBA is significantly worse than TNT. Like TNT is so much better than ESPN. But their personalities they put out, like other than Scott Van Pelt, like I guess Stephen A. still has a Stephen A. thing at ESPN. I know some people are hating on him, but he's just doing his thing. But Kendrick Perkins, oof, like um, it's tough when he's your
Yeah,
main basketball go-to guy.
yeah. I mean, they've let go of a lot of people over the last 5 years. Um, ESPN's not as big as it used to be.
Yep.
That's just how it goes.
Also, when you get taken over by Disney, that's also how it goes too. But
That is awesome.
all right, my tough scene is just a few hours ago, actually, before recording this. Wander Franco got convicted. So that saga's been going on for years now. He, as a 21-year-old, it came out that he was dating a 14-year-old in the Dominican Republic. And once that happened, the Rays kind of just shut him down, and he hasn't played since. And he likely will never play again because he just got convicted today. But it's also kind of a loss for the justice system because I just explained the situation. And Jeff Passan tweeted out earlier today, where's it at? That he was found guilty and he would receive 5 years probation. That was his sentence. And I was like, what? But then he corrected it. He edited the tweet and he said he received a 2-year prison sentence. So, but originally what it just is like, he's been found guilty of an illegal sexual relationship with a 14-year-old girl. He's been sentenced to 5 years probation. It's like, what? That's it? Probation? But 2 years in prison for that. So I think they're still together. I think that they still have continued to date. Is as weird as that is, that's what sources are saying. So I don't know. Love is love. Comes in
That's
all shapes
crazy.
and sizes.
That's a crazy love is love. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
it is. But I'm seeing here that the mother of the victim of the 14-year-old girl, she was convicted to 10 years in prison. So the mother got 5 times the sentence that Wander Franco did.
And what was her
So that's
like? What was her? What was she convicted of?
uh guilty of sexually trafficking her daughter.
I'm
So
I would have to read into that, but is that literally just letting her date Wander Franco?
I guess. Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
So yeah, big tough scene there. And tough scene for the Rays because they never pay anybody. And Franco was like an all world prospect. He was an all star, and they're like, yeah, let's pay him $200 million. And then the next year after that, this happens. So pretty crazy. It also started on the MLB burner verse. Just one guy posted like pictures, and he's like, "Is that Wander Franco?" And then it just evolved. So it probably would have eventually came out, but it is
Yeah.
funny it happened that way. And then my last tough scene is Jordan Walker. He finally came back off the injured list after battling, I think it was a back injury, maybe hamstring, just classic wear and tear of the MLB season. And a couple days ago, he got put on the IL again because his appendix ruptured. So,
That's the
yeah,
worst.
tough
I've heard
scene.
that hurts like hell.
Yeah, I worry about it myself because I have an appendix and it could just burst at any second. So, and I probably wouldn't know it because the way my diet is, my stomach just hurts kind of all the time. So it would just be like, oh, it's another, just normal.
Another
It
tummy
turns out
ache.
I'm dying.
Yeah.
I'm being poisoned by an organ in my body. Um, yeah, tough scene for him. That just that sucks, but it also is, you know, Jordan Walker. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong with him. He's the
Mm-hmm.
classic Murphy's Law player. So
Yeah. Um, I think that's
and
basically
the
it.
Battlehawks too.
Yeah.
That's another tough. That's from
Battlehawks.
a few weeks ago, but
Battlehawks.
yeah, lost at home again.
Fire back, I think, Luke. I know it sounds
I
crazy,
know.
but like he hasn't done anything for us.
We said it was a legacy playoff run.
It
Like he had
was.
to. This was his chance, and
Yeah.
back-to-back years we've been the favorite to win it all going into the playoffs, and we lose first round at home. So
Yep. And it
can't
literally
happen.
the league is literally giving them home field advantage on purpose. You know they're doing it on purpose. They know that the Battlehawks are the team with the most fans, so they're just putting it in St. Louis to hope that they get to the title and that they can win it. They're giving you home field advantage, and you still can't do it. It's crazy. It just
Yeah,
sucks.
they're begging them to go to the finals. Like,
Yeah.
please play in this championship game, and they're not taking it. So I really thought Max Duggan was the guy to do it.
Nope.
Oh well. The defense really shit down their leg though that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jordan
I wonder if they
Teamu
would have
tore us
been.
up.
I wonder if Manny Wilkins wasn't stupid. I wonder if they would have made it. But
We'll see.
because I
Maybe next
remember
year.
Manny Wilkins. I remember watching the first game, and I'm like, this guy's gonna be hurt, 3 or 4. He just does not slide, and he just runs like a crazy person. And it was working, because that does play. It just all depends on if you don't get hurt or not. And he got hurt, so there you go.
Best ability is availability. So
Yep. All right, though. I think
all
that
right.
wraps it up.
Yeah, unless you want to do a wheel spin. We've already got a healthy show, but
Yeah, maybe we could start that next week, and we'll nail down how long we should do it for. Is it 30 seconds?
I don't remember.
I think it's a minute or 30 seconds. One of the two. I think maybe we do a
Yeah.
minute and you do 30 seconds on it, and then I think I do 30 seconds on it. I don't remember. Something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll start off 101, episode 101, be the first wheel spin. So, anyways, what a great show. Thanks for everyone listening along the way to 100. Thanks to all the guests that we've had on the show as well. It wouldn't be possible without everyone else. So, um, thank you to Cam for doing this for so long. I mean, it's been over 3 years that we've been doing this. It's pretty crazy. You know, even we've had some hiatuses and haven't been as consistent as we probably should. But it's been fun just talking
Yeah,
sports.
it's been fun, especially when
Microphone.
especially like at times of the year like this when uh we don't get to see each other that much. So it's always good to just be able to just do this.
Yeah. Okay,
Because
it's
this
like a
is what we
Zoom
would
call
do.
for me and Cam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because this is what we would do
exactly.
if we were in person for a while. But yeah. So yeah,
Yep. That is pretty crazy, but hope you guys enjoyed. And I'd like to say we'd be back next week, but I'm not going to promise that. But we will be back. We will be back. So just stay tuned. Follow the Twitter at Show Me Show Pod. Subscribe. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. So there's no excuse not to tune in. We got all the apps. So we'll see you guys next time.